Another day to live through. Better get started. December 1965. Is that all it has been since I inherited the world? Only 3 years. Seems like 100 million.
The Last Man on Earth. This episode of Destructomundo.
It's on, it's on. There's no sound. Play with the rabbit ears.
Reports, incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. What do they think we're imagining all this?
Destructomundo. Witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases the killers are eating flesh. People they murdered. Repeating this latest bulletin just received moments ago from Maryland. Civil defense authorities have told you that murdered victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers.
Dum dum dum.
Dum dum dum.
Now, this doesn't mean just one guy. This
Well,
is just the last human being against hordes of unbearable.
Exactly.
creatures.
It's one man against what's left of the Earth's story, rather.
Yeah.
You
You're
know.
all by, at least effectively all by yourself. But there may
Yeah.
be somebody in southwestern China.
Sure.
But that's he may be in the same jam that you're in, but
He's giving you moral support. He's like, if you're out there, man, I'm praying for you.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
you're all
you know.
alone.
But
And you're
effectively, you're all by yourself and
fighting the hordes of evil. Or,
Yes.
well, hordes of mutants.
fleshy-headed mutants.
And they don't necessarily have to be evil. They just want to eat.
Your skin
Yep.
or your brain.
If
Suck
that
your
makes you
blood.
evil, well, okay.
Fleshy-headed mutants.
It's been done 1,000 times.
It's been done well, and it's been done very poorly.
Yes. But the Last Man on Earth scenario has its roots in film like probably no other subject. Starting with
It's-
Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price.
That was actually based on I Am Legend. too.
Yes.
Yeah.
The book I Am Legend. And then you
Highly
have,
recommended.
yes, very good book. Great
And
book
that,
on
that, and of course, I mean that movie's closer to the book than Omega Man,
yeah.
but it's not a really great movie.
No, and Omega Man is highly entertaining. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
got so many parts to it that are
It just
the
it's,
best
it's
thing
awesome.
to watch. I
but
just
all
love
that-
Charlton Heston in that.
All
sort
that
of role.
stuff, that Last Man on Earth stuff. I remember as a child, that stuff had like a really powerful psychological effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those movies like that, there's that it's like the Empty City. There's a couple of Twilight Zone episodes that run along those. The one with Burgess Meredith, Time Enough at Last.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because then he got it hurt. There he's got like.
What can I say? Rod Serling was a great freaking writer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's in the vault. And for those who don't know this episode, he reads all day.
We're gonna give away another great Zone episode.
Sure. But he reads all day, and his boss doesn't like it. His wife doesn't like it. Nobody wants him to, they hate him reading so much. And
Well, he works at a bank.
Yeah.
And during his lunch hour, he goes down to the vault so he can get some peace and quiet to read.
Yeah.
Because all he cares about is reading. And then one day, while he's down there,
kaboom! Yes.
the big nuclear war that everyone was living in dire fear of back then happens.
Sure.
And luckily, he's in a bank vault.
He's in New York.
underground.
He's in New
Yeah.
York City. Yeah, he's in a bank vault. So, yeah, when he wakes up, several hours. I guess there's the kaboom, whatever.
Yeah, he wakes up and
Yeah.
he wants to, he's exploring and he sees the hopelessness of it all, and he thinks about actually killing himself, and then he just picks up a book and he realizes that he can
Yeah, he's
read
wandering
all
around the
this
rubble
stuff.
of New York City. He realizes everybody's gone, you know.
Yeah, and
And then right when he's about to shoot himself, he realizes he's on the steps. If I remember correctly, he's on the steps of the New York Public Library.
Yeah, and then he realizes, he's got all this to read, and then he goes in and he stacks up all the books for months and years that he can read, and
He's finally got some peace and
trips
quiet.
and drops his glasses, and he wears really thick, like Coke bottle
Coke
glasses, and realizes he can't see to read.
Yeah.
And, he's all like, I had all the time in the world. All the time in the world. That's so sad. It's so sad. And it's really good acting from Burgess Meredith. And
That's awesome, yeah.
And the fact that, that it's Rod Serling's writing, and you get all of that. Oh, kitty. Got a cat jumping on me now. It's just a great story.
Yeah.
It's so great. I
mean, you can appreciate the sort of psychological impact of like one guy all by himself wandering, through this city, and it's all atomic rubble and everything.
Yeah.
But, and especially that one because he's not kicking ass like Heston.
Well, it's Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, but I mean it's a whole different thing. Imagine that if you're not like, the take charge, kick ass guy.
Yeah.
Blasting mutants or whatever.
Well, in that he was truly alone. Like there wasn't any hordes of mutants or vampires or zombies.
He's just all by himself. That's like, really, really effective. But I mean, Heston, he's got the penthouse apartment. He's got all the guns. He's got convertibles. Sure. He's rolling through L.A.
Well, what else would you have, man? I mean, I'd drive that
it's L.A.
dopest car.
It's L.A., man. They bust up the one Mustang. He gets another.
Sure, he goes into the. He goes shopping for a car, and
so he's just kicking ass with Matthias and the family.
Matthias.
That movie just rules, man. It's just.
See, Matthias is awesome in that too, because he's like the newscaster that's doing the end of the world like newscasts and no, it's not. What's his name in that? What's Charlton Heston's characters? I almost said
Neville.
Neville. I was about to say Taylor. Yeah, and
I think it's Robert
Neville.
I think that's the same name of the guy from.
From the guy from the Neville Brothers.
No, I wouldn't know. But I know it's Neville, but I think his first name is Robert.
Yeah, he goes and he's taken the serum back. I guess from Washington and crashes.
Yeah, he's got the possible antidote to the plague.
Yeah, and he's already injected himself, so he's immune to the...
No, he shoots him. He injects himself because they fly into the cloud of it, and the pilot of the helicopter is dying, so they're crashing. Remember, he's laying there like in the...
Oh, yeah, he's laying on the ground.
Because it's never been tested.
Yeah.
So he's figured, I'm fucked, I'm dying. So he pulls it out and injects himself, and it winds up working, so he's the one guy that's actually immune to it.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the plague zombies, Matthias and the family. And
they come out at night because they can't hardly, they can't stand the light. And then like Ted read I Am Legend and bring on. Tell us about.
I've read it many times.
Yeah, I've read it, but it's been a while.
Well, Ted's read it recently though. Give us a synopsis of that story and why they, basically come out at night.
It's because they're vampires. It's a plague thing, and they're vampiric and they drink blood. For the character in the book actually figures out why they do it because he has nothing better to do except sit in his fucking house and drink. And when he decides to lay off the drinking for a while.
Sure, he's like a blithering alcoholic in it.
During the day, he goes out and gets his stuff, and he goes out and grabs a microscope and somehow figures out that it's this weird plague that turned people into what can only be described as vampires.
Yeah.
So he just holed up in his house, and he goes out by day and kills people who are sleeping because they all sleep during the day, and by night he locks himself in his house and drinks himself silly.
What's his neighbor's name? The one that is always coming after him and yelling at him and stuff. They do that in The Last Man on Earth too.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's this
the way.
His
name. But he's got one neighbor who's always taunting him
Tell
outside.
him to come outside, and.
But I mean,
yelling his
He
name.
figures out that that's the only thing that guy can say. It's not like he's really thinking it, that he's out there just saying it, because it's the one final part of his decayed brain that actually works is that he remembers his neighbor's name. So that's all he says. He's always outside, like, come out, you know. He never does. It's really interesting. And, you know, and they're not particularly bright and they're not particularly fast. Some of them are more, you know, dexterous than others.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's always every time because the whole point is, like, one time, like, his wife came home, and his wife was the thing that really screws him up at one point is the fact that he's reminiscent on the fact that he had to kill his wife because his wife comes home and she's got this vampire disease, and so he has to kill her. So that's why he starts drinking, and then he just sits in his house and drinks himself silly, and
which is obviously
kills vampires.
And every now and then there's like a female vampire that kind of like tries to like seduce him outside.
Sure,
and, you know, he's stuck in the house by
yeah.
himself, and you got some like naked chick outside going, "Why don't you come outside?" And he every now and then he gets tempted to do it, but
yeah, I mean the psychological strain of being that, you know, alone like that.
Yeah.
For, you know, conceivably the rest of your life.
Yeah, because basically by day he's going out and fixing all the crap that they're wrecking at night because they're trying to get in. So every day he has to go out and rebuild the outside of his house and like rebuild this shed where he has this generator.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing about.
But at night they go and tear the shit up because they're
like
trying to break
Omega
it.
Man, he lives in the apartment.
He's got the penthouse apartment. He's got the closed circuit TV surveillance. He's got the lights. He's got
in the garage that has the elevator
I love
in it and
the
everything.
sandbag machine gun nest on the balcony. That's just great, man. That's
the BAR.
He's got the cool pad. He's got like all the he's got that giant TV screen like to watch stuff. You know, he's got the surveillance with the closed circuit.
He's living like a pimp, man.
Yeah, but then he's got like the gun rack of like machine guns over on the side. You know, and
well, he was Air Force, so you know he knew how to use a lot of weapons like that and stuff. So
he's just he's totally kicking ass. When he's out jogging in like the blue velour tracksuit, he's like the utility belt
with the
45 and the submachine gun slung over his shoulder.
Sure.
He just kicks ass in that movie, man. He's a badass. But yeah, my favorite scene is the one he's having dinner. It's whatever day of the week that he has like formal dinner by himself, and he's
dresses
up.
He
changes for dinner.
He's got like
the
smoking jacket,
like the green velour dinner jacket with the big ruffle
and the ascot.
Yeah, it's just great. And then Matthias and the family show up during dinner.
Sure, well of course.
I think he's actually preparing dinner at the time, but he gets all pissed, and it's night. You know, so he grabs the BAR with the big giant starlight scope, infrared scope. It's not starlight. I guess it is actually. It's one of those big infrared scopes on it, and it's like blasting him from the balcony. You know,
sure.
It's just that's great. That's good cinema in my book.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in the case of guys like that, there's at least a sense of purpose. They have something, you know, that they perceive, I guess, like as that their mission. There's something they have to do.
Yeah, a lot of it's destroying those that are left. And
I mean, if you have something to focus on, like this enemy, this thing, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, at least that's something to keep you going. I mean, like it's like said otherwise, if you're just like the last person and you're sitting, you know, and if you're, you know, the freedom, like if everyone's just gone someday, you know, and you're there, you're left, everybody else is just gone for whatever reason, you know, I guess you'd freak out at first, and then you know you'd go like grab a sports car and drive around, and you'd steal a bunch of shit and take it back to your house. But you know, effectively, eventually, you know, are you probably going to get tired of that?
Yeah, and loneliness is definitely.
You know, you're going to run out of stuff to steal and stuff to play.
Well,
with.
yeah, you're going to have tons of stuff, but you're going to have to work a lot too, because you're going to be having to provide your own electricity. You're going to have to make yourself, you know, dinner a lot, no eating out.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to gather, you know, food and water and basic stuff like that, because obviously that stuff's not going to keep running.
No.
But he's pretty well set up in Omega Man. He's got, you know, he's got the gasoline generator down the bottom. It's a great defensive position there in the penthouse. I mean,
that's got to be creepy as hell, though. You know, you can't really effectively move around at night because of all the baddies. But then you have, like, you know, during the day you have to go get all your stuff, but you got to sleep. So you're having to sleep. You'd have to make your
As long
room.
as you got to.
You couldn't make your room
secure enough.
soundproof because if you did, you wouldn't be able to hear anybody coming after you. But you'd have to listen to that no or whatever.
Yeah.
All night long, and that would just creep you out.
That the way that's setup that he's got in Omega Man is pretty well thought out.
It's a great fortress of where you're at.
Especially if you can bar the doors or the staircases and shut the elevator down. You don't have to worry about it.
Well, they were all about the Molotov cocktail and that.
But it's pretty well set up. But there's another Zone episode I'm trying to think of that's blurry, but another sort of, it's not necessarily Last Man, but it's very similar. But there's a movie from the 50s, I think it's late 50s, maybe early 60s, called The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. Anyone seen that?
No. And
it's one of those nuclear bomb, destroys, but it winds up being 3 people left in New York City. But eventually, it's the first part of the movie is a guy all by himself, and it's if I remember correctly, it's Harry Belafonte, but there's no Calypso anywhere. No Calypso after the bomb, apparently. But he's some type of a technician because he's somewhere where he's protected. I don't know if he's like it's like underground electrical, like the conduits under the street. Somehow he's doing something, but he's protected, but then something happens and he's wandering around and everybody's dead. And then he finds this girl. And she thought she was the last person left. And then, for a while it's the two of them together. And it's, I guess, for the time it's fairly risque because it's a black guy and a white girl,
Sure.
But then,
was this early 60s?
I think it's late 50s. It may be early 60s.
Yeah, same period.
But I think it's late 50s. But it's actually not bad. It's kind of slow paced, and there's no atomic mutants or anything, But then later on, they come across another guy, and it's a white guy. So then that, then you get the whole thing, whatever. And there's obviously some social commentary going on.
Sure.
There. But it's actually not. It's kind of slow paced, but it's not. But it's attempted more at I guess examining that sort of, being the last person and what do you do, what do you think, what's it like, and then if there's one other person, and then what little that helps, and obviously it helps to have somebody, but what can you really do long term, But then it is, but it's different because it's not one of those, last guy fighting the horde of flesh-eating, brain suckers from space or whatever.
See, the worst scenario would be if you were actually, trapped with the girl who said that she wouldn't sleep with you and if you were the last man on Earth.
Which, speaking of risque and race stuff, the Omega Man, that's actually the first on-screen hookup between a white man and a black man.
That's right. The heroine of the story is black in that. She's got that great afro, perfect hair.
It's a natural.
Oh, dude, it's great.
She's got the Angela Davis natural.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember that just all of a sudden. But that is actually, as far as I know, I've heard that several places. I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
But Chuck's
got jungle fever,
Chuck's hooking it up.
That's right.
Right on, man. Right on.
So,
So if you find yourself to be effectively the last man on Earth, what's your first priority?
Hook up with the dark side.
Try to find a black chick?
That's right. I would think you'd want to find a safe place. It depends. I mean, if you're the last man on Earth, obviously,
or secure the location you're at.
Yeah, if you're the last man on Earth and there's nobody left, then
well,
you're in a pretty good situation.
How long would you keep looking before you?
I think you'd continuously keep looking. I mean, if you were to find that you were
then
the last
then you'd
guy
you'd be like you'd be like the Hulk hitchhiking,
Well, you wouldn't be hitchhiking.
I mean, are you going to be wandering?
It depends on what kind of Holocaust.
Are you just going to keep driving around looking for people, or are you finally going to go, "Fuck it, I'm the last guy here"?
Well, if it's one of disease, then maybe you indeed would be one of the last people on Earth. But I kind of figure that if you knew that you survived, then you would figure somebody else had survived.
But I mean, would you go like, you know, I mean, like, would you pile all your stuff in a vehicle and like wander around looking for people?
I think I would.
Yeah, otherwise you just get bored as hell.
I mean, if I were to be the last guy on Earth, I think I wouldn't stay put. I think I'd have to move, you know, just to see.
Just to occupy yourself, at least.
Because at the very least, you wouldn't, you know, I just can't imagine going day to day without seeing another person and figuring I can live the rest of my life like that.
Yeah.
Now, if I were fighting the hordes of evil, you might end up having to fortify and stay in one place and kind of hope, you know, that you find somebody in your immediate area. Because you couldn't travel very far. You'd get to nighttime and you'd be out in, you know, the wilderness. You know, and any number of things could attack you there. Mm-hmm. So I just figure it would depend on the scenario. But if you were the last person on Earth and it was a situation where you didn't have the evil hordes, where would you go? Would you start moving towards, like, very rural areas, knowing that, like, maybe the lack of population,
yeah, I know what you mean,
you know, kept it from being so widespread? Maybe there's a farmhouse with some people holed up and stuff. Would you look for that?
Well, it's...
Because you could.
Yeah, I mean, I can see your point.
That would be hard to do.
Again, like the mechanism of what killed everybody off, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the nuclear war thing, it's going to be major. There's going to be the areas that were nuked, and then you'd want to look for the areas farthest from the spots that were nuked. Or
well, that, and I mean, we saw like what happens with like destruction and massive.
And then obviously,
bodies.
if there's like a plague or something, areas of higher population density are going to be at the hardest.
Well, in Iron Legend, he has to take the bodies and actually burn them. He takes them to that fire pit that burns day and night, where they take the bodies and throw them.
Yeah, he loads them in his car.
Yeah, I mean, because he has to. It's disease. Yeah. It's going to just run rampant. Well, you know, it already has.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why he doesn't have it, I'm not going to. I don't want to give away the end of the book, but there's it plays into. There's a reason why he's the last. Literally, in that book, he's, you know, maybe the last human being left, but
sure,
because he just doesn't have it, so he doesn't have to worry about catching it. But he's burning the bodies just to get rid of them. You know.
Yeah, but it would just be.
Even though sometimes he has to watch him like try to crawl out of the pit, which is kind of disturbing.
Sure, I mean, and you'd have to steel yourself against that sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, if you had to fight the hordes, though, I think you'd stay in one place. And I think if you were the last guy and there were just dead people everywhere, I think you'd want to travel. I think you'd want to get away from like any kind of urban place, just because.
That's what I was saying. I mean, most stuff. You know, the areas with higher population densities are going to get hit hardest. So I could see the argument that your chances of finding other people might be in more remote areas.
At the same time, though, those population areas are where you're going to find supplies and things like that. You're not going to find gasoline.
You're going to have to move around during the day and try to locate.
I mean, it certainly would be difficult, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it would. You know, there'd be a lot of determining factors based on whatever it was that, you know, wiped almost everybody else out.
You couldn't just, you know,
I mean, there's obviously no, you know, cut and dry like perfect answer to that.
No,
you know?
That's what I mean. You're gonna do whatever the case.
So you'd have to stop. You know, and obviously it's not something you're going to rush into, and there's no need to rush into it, I guess.
No.
Unless
you don't have to go to work.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be working.
Well, I mean, you don't. You know, it's not like you're
not going to be working for the man,
breathing down your neck, going.
I mean, you know, if you're effectively or potentially the last man on Earth, I mean, you don't want to rush into stuff.
No.
You know, you can just stop and think, where should I go? Where might there be people?
Yeah.
You know.
And if you are fighting mutants,
yes,
then you're going to have to, you know, daily do, you know, recon into areas where you know they're at. Because eventually you're going to realize that if you don't go after them, eventually they're going to get you. Because their numbers won't shrink any because you're out there, basically defending instead of attacking.
Yeah.
And they have larger numbers, obviously.
The big thing, he's looking, in Omega Man, he's looking for the nest. He's looking for, he finds a few here and a few there, but he knows that, somewhere.
He knows they're holed up somewhere.
Somewhere out there is, the place where they all are.
So, in that scenario, you're really going to have to start, pouring through the city and actively looking. And, a couple of times, the great plot device of, darkness falling and my watch broke, I didn't realize it was so late and I need to get back home, or they're going to come out. And
you couldn't tell where the sun was that it was getting late.
You get
Well, he's
lost.
in the movie theater watching Woodstock.
That's right, yeah, that's right. He does that. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, he's watching Woodstock, and he realizes it's so late and he gets back home and, they're actually waiting for him and they're all wearing the robes and, loaded up with Molotov cocktails and he gets one in there and he winds up having to shoot him. It's just the best movie ever.
The movie is freaking awesome, man. It's just.
But yeah, I mean that's the more action-packed part. You don't really have to worry about it being boring because you're going to be fighting them off all the time.
It's strange because, like I said, there's, it would certainly have the psychological strain of being. Alone like that for in an indeterminate amount of time. You don't know if or when you may ever find another person. In movies they always try to, or in books or whatever, they try to portray the strain on the individual.
Yeah.
And how taxing it is on them mentally, emotionally, and everything. But there's an undeniable appeal to it at the same time. When you look at Omega Man, you're like, man, that's fucking
What's
awesome.
the most popular video game of the modern era? Doom. I mean, in that sense. I mean, that's arguable, but for the most part, you say Doom, everybody knows what you're talking about. It's like, Doom? What's Doom? You're by yourself, fighting off the hordes of enemies. Now, it isn't on Earth. You are in space. Yeah. You're on Mars, and you're fighting off, tons of monsters, but you're by yourself and you're fighting off tons of monsters. It's a very appealing thing.
I think part of it goes to the same sort of thing that we were talking about when we were talking about the Road Warrior thing. And it's the sort of the freedom from responsibility.
Yeah.
It's you stop and think about it realistically, and you're like, I'm the last person.
Or the focus of responsibility in a different way. It's like I'm going to keep myself alive.
Well,
that's the ultimate responsibility.
Yeah, but it's the thing of how you stop and think about it realistically. You're like, I'm not. I'd say it's been it's like 8 months since the apocalypse, and I have not seen another human being.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever will. And every day I have to fight. The fleshy-headed, skin-eating mutants or whatever, And you think, and realistically, that would suck, and it would not be a pleasant way. But then there's always the way you sort of daydream about it, and that's the picture of Heston driving through L.A. In the convertible with the machine gun, and you're like, that's just kicks ass. And it's like, it is the sort of you don't have to deal with your bullshit job, you don't have to pay bills.
Yeah.
There's this. You're just totally free. It's this absolute, lack of all the bullshit responsibilities that are a total day-to-day drag.
Yeah, because ultimately your cable bill doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean that part of it.
You're still working to pay it.
And that part of it is really appealing. And so that's that sort of thing that Last Man or last there's some stuff where it may be 2 or 3 people or 4 or 5 people and. Yeah, but then you get the weird group dynamic and who's sleeping with who and
I don't really want to touch so much on that because but it is so complex of an issue when you have the group of people and it also leads into a different sort of subject matter.
But there's this sort of but I mean what I was going to say is the whole thing of being by yourself is that you don't have to answer to anyone.
No.
You don't have to think of anyone but yourself. You know what I mean? You're like,
and that gives you a different set of morals entirely. Because you're hunting down what used to be human, and that does lead to conflict, mental, moral conflict. You're killing other men that weren't evil before, but yet you're having to take them out. And the fact of the matter is that you might know some of these people, or you may have seen them before, or they remind you of people you did know, or
before they had white eyes and
and wearing monk robes and running around and throwing Molotov cocktails. How come everybody knows how to make Molotov?
Or you just
cocktails?
get really horny, and then you're like. Just like in in the book, it's just like every now and then you got some naked vampire chick outside.
Sure, and
going,
you better
and
you got to get.
God,
there's no internet porn anymore.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You got to raid a convenient mart, or something like that. Get all the magazines you can, and just stacks and stacks and stacks of porn. Yeah. And all the DVD porn you can find. You're gonna have to. Those are some of the places you're probably gonna have to look for. Is God, I'm gonna need some porn. Get you a van one day and roll up to the dirty movie house and just load that son of a bitch up.
I said Omega Man, he goes to see.
Well, you could lose time there. Oh my God, look what time it is.
He goes to see Woodstock. I mean, if you knew how, you could fire up. That they could have. They couldn't have put it in the movie at the time, but you could have gone to a porn theater and watched that stuff. But they couldn't put that in a movie in the 70s.
Sure.
You can't have them.
Deep Throat.
Yeah.
Watch Deep Throat. Some pretty bad porn in the 70s.
Yeah.
Very natural women too. And when I say natural women, I'm like
not natural in a good way.
Fur underwear.
Yeah, I mean you'd have to find. I mean, there would be all manner of basic human needs. I mean,
absolutely.
That you'd have to, and honestly, you'd have I think they would be, would you have free time?
I think you would. I think you'd make it. I mean,
and would you have times when you're just bored and don't have anything to do?
I'm sure there'd be.
It depends on what kind of entertainment you were giving yourself. I mean, if you're an avid reader,
you'd have to make supply runs and you'd have to make repairs to your fortifications or whatever, but
I think you'd become really efficient at that. So to the point where you would end up having some kind of just downtime where you'd have to it's like this is the 2-hour period when I have nothing to do. So
sure.
Maybe you read a book
or you just decide that one day a week you're going to go to the movies, or at the very least you're going to go to the video vault or wherever you go and pick up a movie, and not return it, because you don't have to anymore because there's nobody left.
Or go test drive a car.
You figure out stuff to do, and I mean within reason, of course. I mean you could go, man, I always want to learn how to fly a plane, and if you were bold enough, you go down to the small airport and pick up a Cessna or something, fuel it up, and try it out. If you
try not to kill
brave
yourself.
Enough. Yeah, I mean. But then you could pick up all the books you wanted on how to do it, and then kind of get yourself familiarized with what you were doing. You could do that sort of stuff. Your life's going to be risky anyways, so you're going to get used to an increased level of risk. So things like that aren't going to necessarily be anathema to you. You're not going to go, whoa, I'd never do that. You're going to be like, what the hell's the difference between this and hanging out past sunset? Mm-hmm. And plus I'd be able to scour the area better and look at, find out where stuff is.
Post-apocalyptic adrenaline junkie?
Exactly, man, because you're out, you need that. I think, honestly, you would become
like an adrenaline junkie. It'd be exciting
to,
get a parachute, go up in a plane, jump out of the plane and just let the fucker crash.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
I could see, that'd be great.
This is awesome.
That would amuse me for weeks.
Every day, go off in a different plane. Just crashing into something else, Just jump.
Man, that'd be
when
great.
You're going down on the parachute, watch it go. Cool. Just pick a target and see how many days it takes you to hit it.
That would rock. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I could see.
God, that would be crazy. But yeah, I mean,
I do the thing in a convertible, driving really fast, and pop a chute and see if it could pull you out of the car. I would do that.
You killed.
I would stand up in the seat and pull the chute and see if it would actually pull you up
out of the car.
Yeah, out of the car.
Sure. You could do a lot of stuff. You could
or you try that on a motorcycle.
Yeah. Motorcycle probably work a little better in the car. That steering wheel racking you when you're being yanked out of the car.
You gotta get up in the seat. Don't do it sitting down. Sure. You gotta get up in the seat. Yeah. You do like your foot pulled through the steering wheel. You're connected to the car and the chute.
You're like foot in the steering wheel and you're like dangling from it, and the car's running towards the wall.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I could see that. You finding ways to
amuse yourself,
to keep yourself feeling things.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I can see yourself going for a stimulus like different than what you had in normal life. You couldn't just go, oh man, I can't wait to read that book. You know, you might do a lot of reading, but I kind of feel like you would have.
But yeah, I could see that. You know, that's sort of, especially if it, you know, if you're like potentially, you know, fighting life and death every day against something. You know what I mean? There's that everyday, very realistic possibility that whatever it is out there, the horde of whatever, you know, they can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to go out and kill them, or they're coming to kill you. I mean, that day after day after day.
And you're also going to have to...
Then, like, you know, video games aren't going to keep you entertained anymore.
And I mean, if you're killing real people, then killing people in a video game maybe not even, like, important. You know, you'd just be like, wow, I can't do that anymore. That's terrible.
You're going to have to... Yeah, I could definitely see that. How you would become sort of numbed to a lot of things, and I don't know. I mean, it'd be really weird because you'd have to. Ideally, I mean, you'd want to try to find some way to. It sounds new age, but I was just saying, it's like stay grounded type of, you know.
Well, I mean,
you know, emotionally. I mean, like, I mean, but that level of like that intense stress and you know.
Because potentially this could be a long time. You could spend the rest of your life doing this.
Oh, yeah. If you're a young man, you know, you can look at a possibility of spending...
And just look at it.
Decades being, you know, a killer of fleshy mutants, you know. Yeah. And that's going to keep you on your toes, no doubt. And, I mean, you're eventually just going to be hardened to everything.
Yeah. Well, just think about, like, you know, it doesn't happen often, but it's happened a couple times where they find some Japanese soldier in the Philippines who's been holed up in the mountains since... the 40s, thinking that the war's still going on.
Exactly.
I mean, what's he doing out there? He's doing the same thing.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with, like, you spend long enough time out there before the war ended, and then you just go, you know, freaking nuts, and then the war ends, and you're still nuts, and you're, you know...
Yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, I mean,
still there.
I think you'd have to... I guess, obviously, like anything, I don't know.
Well, sanity is...
I'm thinking, like, would the hardest part be, like, the initial thing? I mean, like, if you made it through the first 6 months, then would you kind of stabilize or would it, like, be initially not as bad until it kind of settled into a routine? And then would it start to really grind you down?
Well, it depends on how you feel about routines.
I think it would be bad at first. That's my opinion.
Well,
I think
I think
at first it would be that would be the hardest part.
Yeah, because
then you'd have an interim where it'd be fine, and then at some point you're just going to get fed up.
You're going to be mourning the death of those you knew, and having to fight off evil mutants, and having to make, you know, everything safe for yourself. It's just going to be a lot of weight, because at first you're not going to have the fortification that you may need. And you're going to have to build it, and then you're going to realize that I can only work during the daytime, but I have to work fast because I have to get everything ready for the nighttime, and I'm fighting off zombies, and all my friends are dead, and what's the use, and this sucks. And, you know, eventually you're just going to get the upper hand, perhaps, and then you're going to be like, well, you know, at very least I'm living. And then you make it out during the day, and you build up your fortification, and you get all the things you want, and, you know, in your place, and then you start to, you know, then maybe life becomes a little bit more normal because you're trying to make it more normal.
As long as you've got, you know, when you, especially like I say, when you have something to focus on, you've got stuff to keep you busy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're like, I need to do this, and you know, but yeah, initially there will probably just be a lot of like panic and like not having any idea what to do, you know, and which is the easiest time for you to get killed because you know,
you don't have anybody else to rely on.
Yeah, you don't have you may not have like a fortified defensive position. You know, you don't have your little a bungalow with the machine gun nest and everything.
Sure.
If you're just holed up somewhere with a little bit of something, and if you make it through that, then you start to get your shit together and start thinking of a plan of like, how can I survive long term and what do I need, and
is there a unified force out there that you're trying to defeat? I'm going with the Omega Man theme and what you'd have to do to, or who you'd be battling. So, granted that you'd be able to go out in the daytime and do what you needed to do, and at night you'd be plagued by the evil horde.
Imagine if you didn't. He's got the great luxury of freedom at daytime.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine
if you didn't have that.
If it was whatever. Some creature that's just freaking out there all day, all the time.
Sure.
Like Triffids wandering around, all day, all the time. And you go out, and you take your chances.
Yeah, and then you
wow, that'd be a real bitch.
Oh yeah, because then you wouldn't have the luxury of being able to get some being alone is bad, but being surrounded by enemies all the time, that keep you on your toes, and sanity is a measurement given by society, I think, and I think you'd start to lose your mind, but you'd be able to, if you still remain functional, would you even know you've gotten crazy? Would you even know that technically speaking, you're a killer. And in society's eyes, killing other people is considered bad. And of course there's situations where killing is understandable. In a war situation, you don't see soldiers, being treated like murderers when they come home from war. Well, very often, but you'd be killing all the time. So you wouldn't have that end of things, the end of killing.
Well, I don't think you can ascribe modern. You can't be antisocial if there's no social structure. So.
No, but I think that social structure keeps one I guess their mental state would be changed a lot.
That would be. I wouldn't be concerned with. At that point, the last thing I would be concerned with is whether or not somebody was sane or clinically insane.
Yeah, but
it doesn't make any difference.
Let's say you spent a good 5-10 years doing this, and you were, you barely spoke.
Well, I think
unless you were talking to yourself.
The sane insane is not a good way of. It would. It would profoundly change you.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And if you were to come across somebody who was like you, and making their way and surviving.
Yeah.
After a decade of fighting off everything and never talking to anybody, how would you treat that person? Would you just be so socially inept that you couldn't have a relation with them? Or
no, I don't think you would.
Well, what if you'd spent day in, day out, just on the, with a barely any kind of grasp of survival, but you managed to do it, and then you made it through. And then you met somebody, and they'd been doing that. And you're so used to relying on yourself and not being able to rely on anyone else because you're having to kill everyone else. How are you going to treat that person? Are you going to be able to, change your ways all of a sudden and start living with them and working together?
It's not like you've been doing this. It'd be different if you had some feral person who, from age 5, had been doing this for 20 years.
Well,
you have an adult who's been doing it for a decade or 2 decades.
Yeah, it's like that, the kid.
You'll be able to relearn that stuff real quick.
Well, like the kid in the Road Warrior, the one that had the boomerang, he had obviously been living, by himself for years and years and had developed, skills to be able to survive, yet couldn't talk, and just was feral.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
but that's
movie,
from
though, he learns how to talk because he's narrating the whole story. But that doesn't happen in real life with feral children.
No.
But I think if you've been, you get to a certain age,
But I can see your point. Years of living like that would have a dramatic effect on you, and your your concept of social interaction.
Yeah, because
because of the lack
anybody goes without talking to somebody at least once a day, and if they don't talk to somebody,
all you have to do is look to these guys, the couple guys they found in the Philippines. I mean, they're out there for 40 years, and they were able to communicate and assimilate back into
Well, I
society.
think I know the
fine.
story you're talking about, and one of them actually lived at like a village, like, and had children with one of the.
No, well, I'm talking about the one that didn't. That like
that
everybody
lived up in the hills
Yeah.
and stuff like
I mean,
that.
he
Well,
wrote a
I
book.
mean- oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I have it in my
mean,
office at work.
Just seems like you'd realize at some point that war couldn't last that long.
I know, but I mean,
don't
my
know.
point is, he didn't turn feral. It's not like he's a pig. Like if you took a domesticated pig and threw it out in the woods, in 2 years it would be furry and have tusks and be eating meat.
No.
So it's not. I don't think you can't take an adult human and they don't turn feral. A child you could, but you can't turn them back. I mean, they can't. They've never been able to teach a feral child how to speak.
Well,
like
but
language.
it would still be, profoundly.
Yeah, but I think if you did at some point,
Different than
find
what you're
someone,
used to.
Oh yeah, it would.
it would
Sure.
it would.
You'd
it
have
would be
to get
diffi-
used to
Yeah,
it.
it would be difficult to readjust.
Yeah.
After
You
you,
know,
you know.
but if it was
find
a
somebody else, I would think.
I mean, but if it was a chick, obviously, you would fall in love and repopulate the earth.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't
Well,
well, that's my
maybe.
goal. You
would start on
It
it.
depends on who. Well, I don't know.
got to repopulate.
If it was
the
some
earth.
like 85-year-old woman
Well,
with
obviously you couldn't.
one eye and
That's not.
giant wart on her face, I don't know that I would want to.
Sure, I mean,
I can't say that you'd want to hit it, but you never know. You could get desperate.
yeah. I mean, if you ended up with somebody who was,
Well, I mean, it's highly unlikely that a 85-year-old
let's just
woman
say
would
homely.
survive.
You know what I'm
But,
saying?
yeah.
I mean, if you got
but then you could end up with that girl that's like, I wouldn't sleep with you, or the last man on earth. Once I heard a comedian, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'd knock you out."
Well,
yeah, you'd have to battle with that. Like,
I mean, what if she was just not into you? I mean, regardless of you being the
I don't
last
think-
man on earth, what if she was like, I don't care.
Biology
I'm not
takes
going to have
out-
kids. I don't
Yeah.
want to have. I don't. Maybe let's
I
work
think
together.
that would-
We're in a working relationship right now.
You
We
know,
can't be having sex
I
with
think
each other. I mean,
well, no, having sex with somebody and procreating are two different things. I don't think it would be in your best interest to be dragging around a pregnant person.
well, I mean, if you had to repopulate the earth,
You're not going to. The fact that you're not going to
I
repopulate.
know. I was
the earth,
kidding. I was totally kidding when I said that. I was
Well,
seeing
you're not
some.
gonna
I mean, I was imagining some really.
You're going to
stupid,
have
Yeah,
movie,
but I think
I was
that you're-
imagining the very stupid movie moment. Where,
Sure, when they're like,
because you're
They-
going to have
out.
a pregnant
Yeah.
girl that you're going
And
to have
two
to be
people-
dragging around, and then when she pops and has a baby, then you're going to have an infant that you're going to have to be trying to find food
screaming
for.
all the time.
and
I mean,
then,
it's just not gonna be
And then,
practical.
unless you at some point
So you're
find
gonna have
somebody
to-
else, you're not going to achieve anything. Because
And where do you find a babysitter?
I mean, two people.
You try to go out.
You need
and
more
have a
than
good
two
time.
people to repopulate the earth. Like
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
it's
Regardless,
already-
I mean,
Yeah,
not
it's
to-
the whole Adam and Eve scenario. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
You can't, you can't populate the
Yeah.
world on inbreeding. It just
yeah.
doesn't work.
So that's what I mean, like, no, I mean, I
you're
was,
gonna have mutants of your own.
I was,
Yeah.
I was just envisioning a really,
Pretty
really.
soon.
I was
Yeah.
envisioning that really dumb movie moment.
Sure,
of, like,
sure.
After 10 years of killing mutants, I find some Swedish bikini model living in a beach house.
Now, arguably, if you found a whole team of Swedish bikini models,
Then you can start
you could
a farm.
at least populate
That's
a city.
right, a farm.
a
That's
baby
not
farm.
bad. That's not a bad dream.
Right. I mean that whole like repopulation concept
Because then they'd fight over you.
is
Yeah,
that
they
would just
would-
add more
You'd be
entertainment to
the
the whole
last
situation.
man on earth, man. What are they gonna say?
that. I mean that you
They're
know,
gonna go
that,
get
that,
electronic help.
the procreation,
and then you- what good
reproduction, repopulation thing rarely gets handled realistically in much of that.
No,
Stuff,
it'd be a
but,
lot different than the way it's
um,
described in books and movies for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
But
it's very. So I really didn't envision that happening, but
And then you're
It's-
going to get into a fight with them. You get an argument.
I know,
Jesus
they
Christ.
can't go, do the normal things that people do when they get in the fights. They stay away from each other, talk to their girlfriends or boyfriends. Boys don't call their friends boyfriends.
that's why I was looking. That's why I was looking at you like.
It made its way into that. I don't know how I get there. All right, but anyways, you can't go talk to your friends and go, man, he's being a bitch.
But you can
No,
arguably, you could still go to the bar and talk to a bartender who isn't there because they're not listening to you most of
and
the
you
time anyway.
and you really wouldn't want to kick her out.
You could have imaginary friends.
No, you couldn't really. I mean, you couldn't divorce her really.
You couldn't go, I'm leaving.
Well, yeah, you could.
You could, but you'd be
Well,
right back.
yeah.
You might get so sick of her one day that you're like, screw you.
You know,
and
another
leave.
10 years on my own killing mutants is better than another day here with you. I've had enough of this.
Exactly.
You know, killing mutants all by myself sucked, but you are a comic bitch. So I'm out of here. I'm taking my convertible and my machine gun and my hatchet, and I'm out of here.
Yeah, you keep the house and the kids.
Yeah, taking my case of booze
And I'm
with
taking
me,
the
too.
car
Taking the car and the dog
and the
and
ammo.
all my guns. And I'm out of here.
Don't forget the case of gin.
Yeah.
Oh, you bet. Because the liquor store would get raided a lot. I mean, then in I Am Legend, he's a blithering alcoholic, and that's how
Yeah,
he
for a long time.
makes
He's
it
on and
through.
off. But
Yeah, but I mean, he gets yelled at outside, and he's like, "Screw this," and
But I could
drinks
you know,
himself to
I could
sleep.
see that. You'd have, you know, it would catch, it would, you know, the stress of it all catch up with you. You'd sink into depression, drink a lot.
Sure.
You know, hopefully, maybe, you know, you can come out of it after a while, get back on track, get focused. You know, I said you've got your sort of your objective, your mission, what you're doing. You know, every now and then the shit's just going to catch up with you. And it's, you know, you're only human.
Mm-hmm.
You're only the last human on Earth.
there's all kinds of pharmacies out there just waiting for you to.
So you gotta get one of those journal
blasted.
handbooks. Like, what is this? No, God, I don't want that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to learn what that stuff
You know,
is,
to
just so
raid the
when
box
you get hurt,
of, raid-
OxyContin.
I'll tell you what, Imodium would probably be your best friend.
I was saying you don't want to raid that thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the scene in Drugstore Cowboy when he's like, stool softener.
Yeah.
He's digging through all the pills and he's like the something. They don't want that, but you know, it's I didn't think about that, but I guess self-medicating in any form would certainly be tempting, you know.
Well,
Like I
if,
said,
if
the-
you
the-
were that,
Like I said, there'd be times when it would just catch up with you, and you just
yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
probably going to spend
it'd be a hell of a
couple of nights, really laying it out, crying and wishing that things weren't the way they were, and then you could wake up and go wreck planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like the beginning of Apocalypse Now.
And then the next week you're like,
sitting in a hot, room with a ceiling fan. You're just sweating all the time, and you're in your underwear.
yeah. Then 2 days later you're in a Ferrari with like a fifth of whiskey and a bottle of amphetamine. You're like 150, going, this is fucking great. Like you just completely numb from the neck, from the head. Your head's just numb, but
Yeah.
still feels like it's on fire. and you're-
Well, okay,
Bug
let's
it
say
out.
that, you ended up living like that, and then all of a sudden, maybe later on, and you find a group of people that you could restart society with, but you still want to live like that. You still want to drive the Ferrari around fast as hell, and people are going, hey, you need to slow down out in the street, because, we're trying to have kids, and
yeah.
we're walking across the street. You're like,
You know what? I don't think
this,
that's
man.
true.
I'm gonna go
I
live
tell you
where
what,
there's
if
not
I was
any
trying to
people.
rebuild a society and some dude came up in a convertible and was having a really good time, I'd be like, why am I not doing that the entire time? It's like, let's all go do that and just cruise
because
around.
most people don't live like that.
Well, that'd be awesome.
They,
Yeah.
society keeps us from driving 150 miles an
If
hour.
they just tried it once, I'm sure they'd like it.
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Yeah, and they're out there, farming,
sure,
trying to find some way to, they'll build a school for the kids,
yep.
all that.
And then everything's
stuff.
got to get safe,
Yeah.
in quotes.
And you just move on.
Yep.
Go to a different town.
Somebody goes out hunting.
head out into-
you're out looking for the Ferrari, and somebody's out looking for the minivan. And you're like, what a sad sack of shit that guy is. And then you just take off
Yeah.
one day. You're like, screw this. I don't want to be part of society anymore.
Just
What,
Head out-
what
head
kind
out
of
into the
appeal
wasteland,
did that
man.
have? And then you just come in town every once in a while and be, go, hi, I'm the new guy in the gene pool, and pick your girl out.
and they need that fresh, Yeah.
Then you don't have to mess around with the whole, getting tired of her because you only see her once every 2 or 3 months. You go out and live life.
Just imagine the crazy recipes you'd come up with.
Oh, man. Yeah. What can I do with these beans and this macaroni and cheese and this
I don't know. I guess you'd wind up eating a lot of really scary stuff.
Sure, in a lot of cans. You know,
Yeah, a
we've
lot of
already
canned
gone
meat,
over that.
A lot
but-
of cured meat,
Yeah. Beef jerky chili is really good.
salted
I guess
pork.
I guess it would be a good
Made
thing.
from
It would,
canned
it would be a good
ravioli
thing,
and-
probably, that you're active, because otherwise you'd probably be a big fat motherfucker.
Oh, sure. I
Yeah,
mean, you
especially
could.
if all
You
you
could,
had was
you
MRE.
could be like,
you're eating
like
all that
3,000
canned
calories.
shit, and
yeah.
instant shit, and if you weren't out killing mutants all day, every day, which is probably a really good calorie burn.
Sure, but I mean, it's kind of hard to be on the Atkins diet, you know, if all
Yeah.
you have is like 200 boxes of rice-a-roni, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, you're going to be eating some crap, so if you're not out busting skulls every day,
Yep.
you're going to be a big fat motherfucker in your bunker.
Living like a big, you know, man, I've gained
Jabba
like
the
100
Hutt.
pounds
Yeah.
since the end of the world.
You're like-
I need to go out and run or something. You know, that's why
450
Neville had the jogging suit
See?
and ran every
Yeah.
day, because he's like, I'm getting a little portly.
And he knew somewhere, maybe, there was a black chick half his age
That's right.
looking for something. So he's like, you know, I can't have a gut when I run across that. If I do get the chance to
Gotta
hook
look
up.
good.
As if
Gotta
she's
look-
going to give a shit.
Gotta look good. Yeah, exactly.
meat.
Because you can go to hell and you'd be like, what do you got?
Ah, yes. So,
You need to take a bath. You need to shut up.
so,
You need to do the dishes. I'll just go get more dishes.
You don't have to
See, that'd
do
be the
dishes.
best part.
you just walk out to the balcony and just throw them
Yeah. Throw them at mutants.
because you don't feel like washing them. But
Pretty good at it, too. Just throw
You
them
have to
plates
go
at
out.
mutants. Oh, yeah. I nailed
Well-
that one right in the head. I bet that hurt.
then you'd have to waste some of your valuable daylight hours.
Going out and buying new
Getting-
dinnerware.
Yeah,
Sure.
getting dinnerware. So.
You know,
Or
no
just-
guy is going to go out and get
Man,
dishes.
all
He's
you-
going to eat his food straight out of the pan, just like he wants to do at home.
You just get thousands of paper plates and live like a king.
See, I guess at least those you can burn.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can get all hairy and, you know, live all crazy and not wear clothes and do whatever you want, man. That's the point.
You can do whatever you want.
That's right. So it's not such a bad way to go, you know.
No,
into the world.
it's
in
got
that
it's
last man on earth
it's got its
situations. Sure.
definitely.
Hey, we got some email to read. I think we probably ought to get to it.
Do it.
One's from our friend Jonas. Jonas wrote us an email, and it's about the first episode, the
You actually
Mad
listen
Max
to it?
episode.
Oh,
Yes.
the Mad Max episode.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
not
he-
the flashlights.
I was gonna say,
yeah, and
nobody likes that one.
he wants to. He's got a method for taking care of trucks.
Excellent.
That we were talking about. So I'll have him.
And if you don't understand what our robot is saying, because sometimes she has a weird accent, just you can
Too damn
ask her, and
bad.
we'll give you the we'll just give you the text if you really need to know. You can't understand
Yeah,
the Tamatani.
I haven't had anybody complain, but yeah, if anybody can't understand our robot, my feelings about it is too damn bad. You get your own female robot.
I have no problem with her at all.
No,
I don't
know.
either. I'm just saying.
But if you do,
you
have
never
a
know.
problem, read.
You've got
Some people
We've
have-
got some listeners that probably are.
Have robot issues.
Yeah.
No, they just might not.
Well,
they
Tom,
have
you're making-
limited understanding of
You're making
English.
her-
No,
English.
Tanya's going to develop feelings and going to have a problem with you being so critical about her. I'm not responsible for what happens.
Well, then she can just stop talking to me. Then
She could electrocute you. When she becomes our robot masters, one of our robot masters, you're going to
Robot-
wish you hadn't said
robot
that.
a robot
mistress.
dominatrix.
She's going to go back and listen to this.
She's going to be your
episode.
robot
She's like,
mistress.
That Ted is. I'm taking him out. And then I'm going to just have to stand back and watch because if I can't do anything.
Thanks a
about
lot, buddy.
it. She's my robot master. How am I going to do anything?
Mistress.
Robot mistress. Robot mistress.
Yeah, you go.
That's right.
She might get a sex change and become your master.
She's so hot, though. She's a great robot. I'm talking about her that way. Anyways, this is Jonas's email.
Take it away.
Just listen to episode 1 and I can answer your trucker questions. First off, the release for the fifth wheel is above the first rear tire on the driver's side. It's narrow enough that your arm, if you aren't completely stationary, has a high chance of being thrown against the wheels. As for driving one, it's your standard 5-speed or it's a 10-speed. You just have to remember to flip the air brakes off on the hoses to the trailer wheels so they spin freely. However, if you wanted to take a truck out and don't really care if you have a good chance of getting away, you can cut the lines to the air brakes and the trailer brakes will slam on.
All right. Thanks, Jonas. Now, of course, we have to give the caveat of, please don't try this at home, unless, of course, gas prices go over $3, and then you're fair game. They did last week go over $3 here, and they were $3.09. Yeah, it took everything I had to just not go get a grappling hook and a shotgun. Everything I had, I just wasn't ready for it. I didn't have everything together. And there wasn't.
Don't have your leather pants yet?
No, I don't have any of that stuff. I need all that stuff before I can actively go after.
I'm not doing it.
They're starting to drop a little bit, and it's appeasing me.
That's useful information if I ever need to hijack a.
Yeah, I had no idea that trucks had 10 speeds.
I knew they had a lot of speeds. I mean, they're crazy looking inside. I mean,
I've never been inside a truck, like a giant rig. So.
They got the.
Well, James cruises with truckers all the time.
Yeah,
I heard he does.
Truck driving mama.
He hangs out at truck stops.
Yeah,
he gets a lot of truck stop action. So trust me, he's seen the inside of more than a few trucks.
It's amazing what people will do for some chili.
Hey. All right.
Next.
Hey, and Sean emailed us again, and Sean has a question about our video game habits.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I had one.
So
I have one.
Well, yeah. Well, Tanya's going to read it. So.
Okay.
Here.
Hey, it's me again. I was just wondering if any of you guys played some online PC games. I'm talking Battlefield 2, Counter-Strike, Condition Zero. Wouldn't it be cool to have a Destructomundo server? I'd love to play with you guys.
Video games, huh?
I've played Counter-Strike.
I have too.
I don't really get a chance to play much video games.
I just don't like to get my ass handed to me by a 10-year-old. Yeah. I just don't. Not to say that we would allow that, if we were to get it going. And actually, my friend Jeff and I were talking about the fact that we could probably get a server together to play Counter-Strike. And there's the possibility if somebody's willing to loan us some bandwidth in a server, then we could do it. It could happen. I like Counter-Strike, especially the original Half-Life, their version of Counter-Strike, the one that anybody's computer can use, because you don't have to have the ultimate gaming machine in order to play
it. I mean, I'd be willing to give it a try. I'm strictly a console gamer.
Yeah, you're able to play a first-person shooter with a controller.
So
I can't do it. I'm a
virtually
keyboard and mouse guy. I cannot play FPS games on a controller.
I have almost no experience with PC games,
but you can use a controller on a computer to play it.
Yeah.
You just have to plug in the controller and do all the stuff. Right. I really like using the keyboard and mouse, though. I'm so used to doing it that I just can't do it any other way. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. We can start looking into that and see if we can't find a game that everybody wants to play. If there's some other games out there that anybody has an interest in playing and that is not so heavy on the bandwidth, maybe we could do that as well. I don't really know, and I'm a big fan of Wolfenstein. And if anybody and I know that's free, you can download Wolfenstein's multiplayer for free and play it. And a lot of those games are
Nazis plus zombies.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. You just can't.
It's a smorgasbord of fun.
That's right.
It's everything.
So I guess that kind of wraps things up. And again, we want your email. That's all we ever ask for is your email. And we want to hear from some of our friends in other countries, too. We've really, Sean is from Portland. Jonas is from here in Louisville. And we've heard from, our friends in Nigeria. But we have not heard from our English listeners, and we have listeners in the European Union. Now, I don't know how that gets grouped in all together, but like I don't know where they're from. I can't tell if they're from France or from Italy or from any of the other European Union countries. But you know, if you're a listener right now and you're paying for things in euros, we want your email. You know, because it's free to email anyone. Just in case you didn't know how the interwebinet worked. You know, because you don't have to pay for postage on the internet. Yeah, that's right.
In cyberspace.
In cyberspace. Mm-hmm. And you can, you know, send us something just because you can. And as soon as we get temporary tattoos, we'll send you temporary tattoos, and that's worth your time and email. You know, I think. You know,
I would be interested to hear what our international listener might have to say.
That's right. I mean, we have listeners in Australia, and I'd really like to talk to them. I'd like to find out how they like the show, you know, because they are the home of the concept for the first episode of the show, which was the Mad Max episode, and that is awesome, you know. So that they have that, you know, because for years Mad Max was dubbed with that American English, and it was, you know,
terrible. It's a
where
travesty.
do we go for a ride?
It's a travesty.
But the goose wants me there early.
Hey, fella, you're a turkey.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Yeah, that's just terrible. Yes.
And then we finally got the Australian English version released, and it was so much better after that. Mm-hmm. You know, we dig the hell out of it.
It's a whole new thing. But
so yeah, and if you send us email, we'll try to get a Australian voice program for our robot, so she sounds more Australian. You know, 'cause we really want to do it. And that's the best part about robots is you can program them to do what you want. Your bidding is their job. So, yeah, and again, it's destructomundo@gmail.com. And we've got a lot of listeners on iTunes. If you can't subscribe to the show with iTunes, if you're using another program, that's fine. I know iPodder X is great for the Mac, and they're talking about bringing out a PC version of that. It's a really great program for getting podcasts, and there is iPodder that is for the PC, and if you just can't get the show to a player, if you don't have a player, or, you know, for whatever reason, if you can't get it, just email us. Let us know, and I'll make sure you get it, one way or the other. If you want to get the show, and there's no other way for you to get it.
You can listen to it on your computer. You don't have to have an iPod.
Yeah, exactly. And the website, Destructomundo.com, has all the files. Yeah. All you have to do is click on the cartridges that we have, and it'll load up and you play.
Yeah, I've just streamed a few at work,
and if there's technical issues,
play them in my office, and people have no idea what I'm listening to.
Yeah. Come in. What are you listening to?
So
public radio, and just tell them public radio. They leave.
It's a talk show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so yeah, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, please, we'd love to hear from you. We can't say it enough. That's all we ever ask for on this show. And we don't want your votes on Podcast Alley, and we don't care if we're number one, because honestly, we can't afford it, because that much bandwidth is expensive. When you're doing like a terabyte's worth of business a month, you're paying out the nose for it. So, yeah, popularity is not our number one thing. But we do want to hear from the people who do listen to us. So, you know, send us something. Just let us know how you're doing. Anyhow, from James.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Ted.
He missed his cue.
We've only done this a couple of times.
I was playing with the wire. Sorry.
And the other guy.
And me.
Yeah, him.
Hi.
Yeah, this has been Destructomundo, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
My God, it's almost dark. I'll be waking up soon.